Like that.
It looks pretty good on frame. Yeah, the frame is good. Karina, can you make sure that you have the profile shot? Okay, looks good. Make sure you go this way and you hit your mark.
Okay.
Okay, so the mic's all working. Okay, so quick makeup, just dab on the forehead, please. Okay, sounds good. Okay. Okay, ready? You ready?
Ready.
Set and action.
Hollywood is one of the biggest influences in our society, and unfortunately a lot of that influence is not always godly. This week, KALO on the Street is highlighting one man's journey, his rise to the top in show business, only to lose it all. And through the fervent prayers of his worried mother, God has now recommissioned him back into Hollywood. Only this time, the show business is God's business.
Well, you know, I was pretty much a normal kid, you know, growing up in Hawaii, and went to a good school, Hawaii Baptist Academy, but I really didn't know the Lord. And, you know, I was a product also of a family that my mother was divorced, and I never really knew my biological father. So with that emptiness there, I realized now that that actually had an effect in me in life. You know, and part of it was trying to succeed in the movie industry.
At first, my son Dennis wanted to go to Hollywood to present as an actor. So I was very thrilled. So that's always that was his dream, become an actor.
And being a local kid from Hawaii and going to Hollywood, man, it was an eye-opening experience, that's for sure.
But reality is, if you get 1 or 2 small parts out of 50 auditions, you consider it lucky.
It was pretty tough, but I didn't realize at the time that I was blessed in the sense that I was able to get some of the jobs where my peers couldn't. And that ended up in me acting in roles such as Behind Enemy Lines. Number 2, I played a North Korean colonel. I also did Mr. Show for HBO. I also did Young and the Restless, and so my credits started to expand.
See, America sees 2 Koreas. We see only one.
Well, that's never gonna happen.
No?
No.
Maybe you are right. Maybe you and I are not so different.
My back!
And I ended up producing films such as Dragon Wars. I also did movies that as an actor and a producer, and I was auditioning and I was getting many roles. But something inside me was not there. I had this big void that was in me.
You know, he kind of changed a little bit, and I figured he was tired or he got stressed up by work, but somehow he tried to make a distance from me.
And I tried to fulfill it with either drugs, alcohol, or with women. And I thought that was the solution, but little did I know that that was leading me more and more into that darkness.
And having all the money in the world and all the things in the world, and you still felt that emptiness.
Yes, definitely.
Gosh, you know, some people think that once you get to Hollywood, that's it.
Yeah.
You've made it.
It's not, not at all. As a matter of fact, it made me actually want more of that partying type of lifestyle.
It's like a black hole.
Yeah.
You know, I felt very heavy in my heart, and I know he's into something no good.
What kind of impact did that have on your family?
You know, that was the worst part about it. You know, and doing drugs and alcohol and just hiding that everything. You know, I realized it had a big effect on my mother, especially.
Dennis's mom was very concerned about her son. She flew to LA hoping to intervene in her son's life. When the manager let her into his apartment, she was heartbroken by what she found. Burned spoons and needles confirmed her fears. She felt helpless and didn't know where to turn.
You know, late at night, he came home. So he told me he didn't expect to see me there. Right away, I asked a question. What is that needles and pipes underneath sink? Then his eyes all red. He said, that was a movie props. I said, I know he's lying. I said, you know, I know what you're doing. He tried avoiding me, and he went to run to his door and slammed the door. I just standing there and say, oh. Then I went to the other room, stayed by myself. Soon I hear all coughing, like a violent coughing. Every time he coughed, my heart just sink. I said, oh, I'm losing my son. I start thinking, oh my goodness, what am I did wrong? Oh, God help me.
Because I was just in this world that I just thought it was just really about me. And I realized that it was tearing my family apart. You know, it's about fame, fortune, about money, but all that disappeared. Actually, at one point, even though I was rising up in my career, you know, as an actor, I ended up homeless on the streets. My girlfriend at the time had left me for somebody else. You know how that story goes, and so I had to fill that void even more, and it became all-consuming. I just started doing drugs, more drugs, and then ended up, you know, giving up. At that time, my mother was very concerned about me, and you know, she met a friend actually on the streets, and that friend invited her to church, and that's when my mother started praying for me, and she realized that the only option she had was to turn to God.
Actually, 6 weeks straight, I was praying after praying after praying. And after that, I feel peace in my heart. It seems like God is talking to me. He said everything will be okay.
The state I was in, my mother was correct. It was pretty critical. My hands were all infected. I had hepatitis C, losing quite a bit of weight. But I believe my mother's prayers were very effective in asking the Lord to intervene in my life. I decided to make my peace with the Lord for wherever He would take me. And I ended up at this church on Sunset Boulevard. It was a big cathedral. And I was at the big doors, and I tried to open it, but it was locked. And then this big burly man with a motorcycle helmet and tattoos and a Harley Davidson rode in, and he asked me, "Whoa, you know, what are you doing here?" And I said, "Oh, I just wanted to go into church and pray." And he goes, "Okay, well, I have the key." And he had the key. He was actually the custodian. I walked in, and then I sat on a pew very much like this and just started to kneel down. And then I looked at the cross, and I just started to pray. And the next thing I know, all these tears just started to fall. And I just asked the Lord, you know, "Lord, wherever you take me, be it prison or homelessness or death, you know, Lord, just do what you will. I surrender everything to you, and I ask for your forgiveness for everything." And then after that, I left the church quietly. A gentleman passed by and said, "Hey, look, you know, you should go to the church down the street. They're serving hot dogs for breakfast, hot dogs." And then he looked at my hands and said, "Oh yeah, and there's a nurse there. Have them take a look at your hands." So I went to the bus stop, met with the nurse, and said, "Dude, you got to go to the hospital. And so they gave me a bus token, and that's how I ended up at Cedar Sinai. The doctor at Cedar Sinai Hospital told me that if I didn't come that night to the hospital, there's a possibility within 3 days my hands would have all got infected. They would have had to maybe cut off my hands or something, or I would have ended up dead from the infection that would go to my heart.
Doctor called me outside. He told me he's lucky. He almost lost his hand by bad infection because all the muscle was damaged.
But it's amazing. Now I know God's, mercy and His power, because all this happened just the next day. It was like that quick after my prayer.
I realized how important is pray for your children. Sometimes, we caught up with the daily busy schedule. We don't have time and we are too busy. But you can find time. You gotta make a time for them because children is worth it.
After I had come back from the hospital, the doctor had advised my mother that I had to exercise my hands. So I had played music when I was younger. She bought me a guitar.
Dennis began to play the guitar for physical recovery. But what he didn't expect was the spiritual recovery as he began to play and write worship music.
And one of the songs, the first Christian song I wrote, I started just playing it, and the next thing I know, I just started weeping, and I realized that I was releasing so much, frustration, anger, so much, unhappiness that was in my life at that point, and I was giving it all up to the Lord.
So he played music, and I heard the sobbing. So I look at door inside, it's dark. He was sobbing, crying, and he was writing, and he's, just practice his song. I said, wow, that's it. That's what you really, God wants you to do.
Dennis joined a local church and got connected with other recovering addicts who shared a common passion for music. Soon, the band Free to Follow was born.
They were so supportive in what I would do, and they just embraced me when I came in. And it was at a small little church, and there were about 5 or 6 of us all together. I was meeting others who also were going through the same thing, but so we supported each other.
And step by step, God was giving Dennis the tools necessary to do ministry through music and media.
The promise I made to him in LA was that I was going to serve him. I was going to serve him because I felt like, that after I served myself for so many years, it led me to nowhere.
That's amazing. So you dedicated your life to serve the Lord, and He gave you this.
Yes, God has given me all this, the studio of late. But, it wasn't something that came about just quickly, and, it was through a process. It was through serving Him. The music actually was just one step in writing songs and creating CDs. And then that process led to my fellowship with the musicians and my and fellowship with pastors in the community. Through that, I observed, I started watching, and I started noticing things, and I started seeing all these wonderful testimonies and these wonderful people who serve God on a daily basis. And I was thinking, wow, this would make a wonderful story. It's just associating with these real life heroes, people who have gone through that mess and come out, knowing the Lord and having a relationship with God, and serving others so that they can find the Lord. So one night actually, I woke up like about 2 in the morning, and I felt a voice, as you might say, and that said, your movie project will bring together the islands. After I heard that voice, I just started to weep. Nowadays, it's so important what the media is doing in the world, and I think it's doing things that are influencing, especially the youth, negatively. So we want to create projects that really inspire and heal. The way the world is now, the movies and anything to do with media has such great influence in the world. You know, every time you're in a conversation with friends or families, oh, did you see that movie? Or did you see this? And a lot of times we get our morals from that nowadays too. And
I think you're right on point. I mean, it's crazy that the world today learns its values from watching movies and TV.
Yeah.
And the values they're getting are terrible.
Yes.
So for them to step in to want to teach godly values on a mass scale, you know, to an audience that reaches around the world, I mean, what an awesome opportunity that is.
God told him to make this movie to inspire and bring healing for people. Dennis is a biological father, also a movie producer and also actor. It's unfortunate he passed away when he was a very young age. He made a movie, very classic movie. It's a movie called in Korean, "Sunggyoja," which influenced Christianity in Korea. I believe that Dennis is just follow his legacy.
Tell me about the movie. What is Kumu about?
Kumu is actually a story based upon many different true events that happened with the people that I've met through the process of music and ministry. And it's really a story about how God can change our lives, and just like how it happened to me. So the movie Kumu, which is teacher in Hawaiian, is a story about a young girl who comes to terms with her the issues that she has with her father. And you know, many of us are like that. You know, we have the thing about the modern world is that there's a disintegration of the core family, and that's what I believe many of the troubles stem from.
I want to ask you a question about the writing process.
Yes.
How did this go from being an idea, life experiences, to being on paper?
At first, I wasn't going to write the script. I had others write the script. And when I got it back, it wasn't there. You know, it just wasn't there emotionally. It didn't have the subtext. And Lord told me in my heart, you have to write the script. I go, me? I have no patience to write anything. But so I said, okay. And I started writing. And I started saying, wow, you know, these things are coming out pretty good. And I realized God is using my experience from the past as an actor, you know, understanding the conflicts within the scenes, the subtext, how to build characters and how to build backstories. It all just started coming back, and I just started writing these characters and these scenes, and I'm thinking, wow. And as people started reading the script, you know, especially people in the industry, they said, this is fantastic. They started crying, actually, towards the end of the screenplay. Then I realized, oh, there's something there. The focus is totally different now. You know, it's really about serving God, using my experience that I had in Hollywood to be able to serve Him, because I believe that it's much needed now. You know, these type of films, the films that actually make a difference in people's lives. Media is a powerful, powerful tool, and if used the right way, it can definitely do a lot of good in this world. And so there's a lot of people that I've actually met through the churches that are inspired by what I do, and they get excited about, you know, camera work. And it doesn't always have to be a Hollywood movie either. It can be like something for the church, a small little piece to inspire people.
Right.
And I feel go for it, you know. And one of the reasons I believe I'm here is to be able to work with the people.
I feel like I had to emphasize what you said.
Yeah.
When you say go for it, it's so important, because you're afraid. I know most people who are at a church or doing that kind of thing, you're scared, but you're scared of failure. You're scared to step out. I wrestle with that so much.
You know, if you were that young person at that church, and I'm thinking, yes, we're doing a movie, this is a major motion picture that's going to go out into the world, but what it starts from is like you, and how that person, you know, has that vision and dream. And I believe that, you know, God is going to use that person for, you know, either editing or for, you know, for camera work or as an actor. And you may even be working with us, you know. And I believe God is raising up that generation to do this.
So they're stepping into it. They're kind of nervous, kind of afraid. But I like to think about what God told Moses when he's looking at the Red Sea. It looks impossible. Making a video, making this production, it looks impossible. God said, stretch out your hand, put your staff in the water, and I'll do the rest. Just take a step forward, pick up your camera, pick up your pen, start writing, and God will do the rest.
We have a great director.
You're right. We have a great director. We have a great director. We can trust him for direction.
Yeah, the best director of all time.
The director. In the world of movie making and story writing, this masterpiece could only have come from God. The power of a praying mother, the grace and redemption and healing of God in our lives and the messes we create, and what it looks like to answer the call of God in our lives. No doubt God has given Dennis unique talents and abilities to be able to be an influence in Hollywood. But I'm curious about the gifts that God has given you. Ephesians 2:10 tells us that we are His masterpiece, created anew in Christ Jesus to do the things that He prepared for us to do long ago. Your very life is a great story. So don't be afraid to take the experiences and the gifts that God has given you to be an influence in this world. I'm Doug, reminding you to go out there and be the light on your street.
All right, cut. That was awesome.
How was that, Dennis?
Yes, that was good.
Awesome. I'm glad to have that.
You memorized all of it, huh?
Yeah, I tried to. Did you feel okay about it? Did it look okay?
Yeah, it sounded good. You hit your mark. And, and
I bumped into it.
It's a little dark, but it's okay.
Okay. Oh, thank God. Woohoo! Dunzo.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.